So jab roundhouse, jab cross roundhouse, jab cross hook roundhouse, jab cross hook cross roundhouse. Même chose, jab switch, jab cross switch, jab cross hook switch, jab cross hook cross switch. Okay? Un à 4, back leg roundhouse, un à 4, switch kick. À tête, au corps puis aux jambes. Parfait? Let's get down on the pads, guys. Good job.
When did you start martial arts? Where did you start? What motivated you to train?
I started martial arts when I was very young, little kid, in Castleman. It was actually the first time that my instructor back then opened up a school in Castleman. He had opened up in Ottawa in '79, and this is 1985, and he opened up in Castleman in the second level of the community center, just as an add-on to his Ottawa school. That's where his kids were living, and his house was there, so he opened up another school on Wednesday nights, specifically for started kids class, because his kids were all old enough now to start having partners, so that's why he opened up his school originally. His eldest son, Stefan, was the same age as me, so we went to school together, and he knew I always liked that when we were in school. I grew up in a family, like my grandfather was a bouncer for a very long time, all my uncles boxed, got in fights all the time. Like in Castleman, my family's kind of the family there, the goon family. So I grew up in that environment where it's fun to fight, it's cool to fight, that's what you do. And he knew I loved that, and he said, my dad's going to do a class, and you should come. And then I remember Wednesday, I went on my bike, and I signed up. Miss Patenaude was there, and she signed me up. I was the first one there at 4 o'clock, and I never looked back. And after that, I started going twice a week. And then when I was 15, I was asking my dad and my mom to drive me to Ottawa. And when I got my car at 16 years old, I was there like every night doing classes. So I started when I was like 8 or 9 years old in grade 5. And right away, it was something that I just loved doing.
What was it about training and being in that environment that you liked? I know you mentioned you used to fight a lot when you were younger, but what, I'm sure there's a difference between fighting
for sure.
on the playground or in the streets and in the dojo.
I loved, I always enjoyed as well the coolness of martial arts. You know, you do kicks, you do cartwheels, you learn how to do like arm bars and locks. You look good when you do that. You know, all the superheroes, they all do martial arts, and you know, Batman does martial arts. Even the superheroes who don't do martial arts, they do martial art moves. So to me, doing that when I was the kid, it was, you know, you want to be faster, you want to be stronger. Doing the splits, then you want to do the Van Damme splits between the chairs. Then I remember we were playing around. Oh yeah, I have a picture in the washroom that we have on top that I did, and we used to do all those. Remember those old Van Damme movies, the splits between the walls, and we went looking for walls that our legs would fit in between. Really? Let's do the splits, and you go underneath me. We used to have all these. The martial art was always something very cool to me. Was it made you like different to be able to do all those punches and kicks and those locks. I also enjoyed a lot of that discipline that came with it. I was always somebody that enjoyed like that military kind of thing where, you know, you listen, there's a hierarchy in the ranks, and I enjoyed that environment as well, where you had camaraderie with the students, and then the instructor was there and you paid respect. I don't know where that comes from, because it's not something that in my family there was a lot of, like that kind of that upbringing, but I did enjoy that right off the bat, that kind of environment, and I still enjoy that today, the ranks, and I respect every rank, like whatever martial art you do. If you're a sensei, I'll probably call you sensei such and such if you are, even if I'm not your student. I like that. I always enjoyed that environment as well, and that kind of respect that was in the martial arts.
Interesting point there, as far as the etiquette and the formalities in martial arts. Where are they today in this day and age of you know, many people growing up now who are fans of martial arts are exposed to MMA, mixed martial arts, right? A lot of people start training in martial arts and they'll jump directly into you know, the mixed style. I guess the question is there any room for formality and etiquette in any of these martial arts, or mixed martial arts as a whole, in this day and age, in your opinion?
I hope so. And in our school, we still have that. Like my students still call me Sifu, which is an instructor in Chinese arts. And if let's say Sensei Gokor comes from a seminar, I ask them to call him Sensei Gokor or Master Gokor. If a guy comes in and his rank is a crew, whichever it is, I want the students to pay the same respect they pay to me to someone else. I don't see why if it's a combat sport, why respect has to go out the window, why formality has to go out the window. He's still your senior, he's still your instructor, he's still passing on knowledge that he worked hard to gain to you. He's still installing a lot of good values in you as well. So I believe you should pay that same respect that anybody paid back then with the senseis, the sifus, the bows. In our school, we still do bows. You'll notice some people come out in the crowd, hey, you guys still bow to your opponent before you fight? Yeah, we're not on the battlefield, we're in a ring. I like that salute before and after. I like to pay respect, even though you fight hard and you train hard. I'm not a big trash talking kind of, and I don't even instill that in my students as well. I like the fighting part, I like the intensity, I like the battle, the preparation, but I don't see why that should be lost. I think that's a very important value, especially for teenagers who come in, that might come in. Yes, they come in for the fighting, because that is, but I'm sure their parents want them to learn good work ethic, etiquette, respect for others, respect for themselves. And I think that bowing is not, there's nothing wrong with that when you do your salute, whether you do a Thai salute, a Kung Fu salute, a Karate salute, a Judo salute. When we go to teach, a gentleman always invites us every year to go do a class in his Judo dojo. We do, just like all the students, to the founder, the picture they have, we do the bow they do with them, because we're guests there. So. And when we went there, I liked that. I thought nobody did that anymore. And I enjoyed seeing that, teaching all these people about respect and where all the martial arts come from, all these masters and the work they did and how they done. I find that interesting. And I'm going to keep doing the sifus and the bows and the respect and the values, even though you can do Sancho or Thai boxing or mixed martial arts as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
How long have you been involved in martial arts? You started at an early age,
yeah,
but
so
how many
it's,
years?
It's going to be like over 31 years now.
31 years, eh? And you competed in mixed martial arts in the early 2000s, eh?
Yes, exactly.
Tell us the story as to how you got involved with that.
For me, we've always done, since I was young, I started sparring. I think we did like full contact fights and full contact sparring in our school, and I think I was 12 or 11 when we started doing that. My instructor is very old school, very street oriented. We make jokes like when we finish class, in our heads when we were kids, we always thought like somebody was waiting for us outside of class in the parking to attack us. So we're always fighting as if it was like in a street fight or as a survival or combative environment. For me, I also wanted, when that came up, all the martial arts and mixed martial arts, I always wanted also, it was a personal thing. I had sparred a lot, I worked as a bouncer, I'd done all these things. For me, it was purely on a way where I wanted to test myself, test my skills, test what I'd learned. You know, coming from a Bruce Lee background, we had a different approach. Everybody back then was pretty much, you know, like a BJJ guy, boxer, or a wrestler. I wanted to test myself. I wanted to do it on a personal thing. So I did 2 of those. Back then it was purely for myself. My instructor didn't encourage us to compete in that area as much. For him, it was a lot about self-defense and personal development. But I did it myself. He didn't tell me not to do it, and he said, you go ahead and do it, do your thing. But he says, back then, of course, he said, don't expect to make your living doing that. And he was right, you know, getting paid like $300, $400. You're not going to make a living for one fight. You're not going to make a money.
What year was this?
This is 2001 and 2003. Wow. So we're not talking big money. One of my classmates did it as well. Back then, in that league, it was like the Canadian Championship, if you want to call that back then. Yeah. Like every league has got all these champions. Sure. But it was still funny for him to get paid, you know, like $475 for what was like a championship fight. We were laughing on the way back at the restaurant where, okay, if you pay everybody's lunch, you don't have any money left in your pocket after your medicals. So, but we both did it to do something for ourselves. It wasn't to prove anything to anybody but ourselves. And I'm glad that I did it. It was a great experience. But it's definitely different now when I see all my guys, like an amateur, the pros, the atmosphere, the type of people that was there, the caliber of students, the reason for doing it as well. All that has changed quite a bit. But for me, it was a personal thing that I did to say that I did it and to give myself like something to be able to share with my students as well, as far as I've done this and that, and it's done.
Which promotion was this?
This was they called it the WECF, which was the World Extreme Combat Federation. So they did a lot of fights, I believe in Akwesasne, Kanawage, and the last one I did, was the first one they did outside with Fernand Monod in Laval, which was where they had all these this hockey team there that would have like 15 fights a night there. The Chiefs, it was in that arena, so the crowd there, it was a very pro fighting crowd back then.
That's good. No?
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere.
How did you do in your bouts? You fought twice.
I did very well for myself. I finished 2-0. Both fights I did. One was a very long time ago in Saint-Jean-Richelieu, which was like a proving ground kind of thing, which we've talked
UCC,
about. Exactly like that, like a long time ago. That was like $75 or $80 back then. Wow. Very, very small.
How was the atmosphere in the UCC, from what you recall, the proving ground?
The old one, like that we done, that one was something that I done very fast. It was like on a week's notice. I saw a little ad that they were looking for people. I went. It was very small. I believe that event was they were looking for guys to go into big UCC shows back then.
Like a feeder system.
Exactly, something like that. It was very small, not a lot of people. So I did that fight, that one I got a knockout for that one, very fast. But back then there was no YouTube, no videos, very few people there as well. It wasn't a big crowd. I would say there were like maybe 200 people back then, and that those feeding. They told us, no, if you do well this, you can do that. And then 2 years later. That one I ended up hurting my hand a lot, like my hand was kind of busted up, and I was like, really got to think about this. I have school, I'm starting my family,
right.
I just made like, big $80.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Smashed my hand, and then
Were you wearing gloves?
Yeah, very small gloves. I didn't have hand wraps back then. I didn't have a corner guy to come with me.
Really?
I went by myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
You drove there alone?
Yeah, I drove there alone, and I went there alone. I came back alone. The second fight, the WCF one, is because
Hold on a second. Why did you go alone? Why didn't you go with?
Back then, we didn't have a lot of experience doing like. For us, for me, it was the same as all the other like smoker fights I've done, or all the sparring matches I'm going. I'm putting my gloves on, putting my mouthpiece in, and I'm going to fight whoever. That's just the experience of it. And me, like I went there, I didn't know. Oh, you have to bring a bucket. Right. You have to bring Vaseline. Sure. Put hand wraps on. To me, I was going there to fight. Give me gloves. And on the phone, I talked. I don't remember who it was. And it was like, hey, come on down at that time, guy. And then to me, it was like an audition. I'm going to show them that I can fight, so we can do the big ones, and then somebody will tell me how it works. And then I went. I used to fight all the time. I used to work in bars back then, so I was confident in myself. But to me, it was like I'm going in a fight. But there's people looking at me. Then the WCF fight, which we've known from Fernand Monod. He'd been a promoter for amateur fights for a long time, Kyosho fights as well, like full contact kung fu. So I met him once, and then I saw that he was doing this event WCF in a little magazine here in Gatineau. I saw that in magazine. Then I knew one of my friends, Scott Hill, one of the instructors in Feng Shan. He said, I always wanted to do that, and I saw they're looking for a heavyweight. I said, hey, I called him up. Look, I just saw this. And then I went with him to the weigh-ins, and at the weigh-ins they said we're missing a guy, 185. And then Fernand Monod says, because he had seen me like spar some of his guys before, hey, why don't you do it? And this is on the Thursday night, and the fight's Saturday.
That's awesome.
I'm 165. The other guy's like 190. I said, of course, in front of everybody. I'm going, okay. And then I did it. So that was the second fight. And again, Scott cornered me. I cornered him, but we were laughing again because when we went there, I was like, we didn't bring any tape, any Vaseline, so we were laughing before the fight. Don't get cut because I got just a plaster, and finish him fast. We didn't know what we were doing too much, honestly.
Okay, and you won that bout as well.
Yes, that one I won 2 minutes of the first round with a TKO.
Okay,
and Scott won as well with a choke back then. So this was April 2003 in Laval.
Now you said your Sifu was. He didn't say don't do it.
Yeah.
But he gave you the green light.
Yes, he did. But he wasn't. I wouldn't say that my instructor was like, oh yeah, great, good stuff, and hopefully we're going to do this. To him, it was. He was very old school in his mentality, where he didn't see. He saw a lot of that as.
Can you tell us his name? Tell us a little bit about
So my instructor was my CJ was Patenaude. He started out. in boxing when he was a young kid, then the karate with one of the pioneers here in Ottawa, André Langelier, in studio karate, so was a black belt with him when he was a teenager. Learned about Bruce Lee, and then in '73, just after Bruce Lee died, he saw an ad from one of Bruce Lee's original students, James DeMille, that he was doing a seminar and was looking for instructors. And my instructor, of course, was fascinated by Bruce Lee, like a lot of people back then. And he went to do an instructorship for 5 years. So he came back with like a very, like the Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do stuff, the original stuff, modified Wing Chun, boxing, the old school judo, the original stuff that Bruce Lee started to get before they went with like a big Jeet Kune Do thing. So that's what the base of my instructor and the base of my training was like for a very, very long time. He was very hardcore as well as far as like the training. He didn't like those point fighting competitions like he had done. He believed like martial arts was for self-development as a person, and if somebody attacks you in the street, there's absolutely zero rules, there's no weight categories, you got to win at all costs. He saw a lot of this old school MMA. At the end, before he passed, where he had him and his wife had a tragic accident last year, so they passed away. Before that, to him, a lot of the MMA stuff, he saw a lot of those guys as goons. He didn't like the no bowing, he didn't like the trash talking. To him, he always liked that if somebody would talk to me like that, I would want to shoot them or kill them. And then after they hug, he says, I don't get that. They always ask me, they just said that they hated each other and I'm going to kill your sister and your mom and I want to kill you. And then after we hug and it's all BS to show. He didn't grow up like that. So he said, he was always asking me, why are they doing that? So to him, he didn't like, but in the end, when there was guys like John Jones starting to fight, he liked the way they fought. He started to see more art in it. So we had a lot of discussions about that at the end where he said, I wish we would have pushed it more. And he said, you were right that where you said that this could go somewhere. He always saw that's never going to go anywhere. It's just goons and street brawlers that are going to fight in there. And he didn't like the lack of respect and all that stuff. But he never told me not to do it. And he was...
Is it fair to say, from what you're saying, were you a influencer in suggesting MMA, or I mean, you're someone who, as far as the Patenaude, the Fang Shendo crew, who fought mixed martial arts, this is going back 15 years, right? Yeah. So were you someone within that community to pursue MMA? Were you?
Yeah, for sure. And I had a lot of discussions. We used to call those special classes back in 1986, where I was young back then, and I remember all the advanced guys, we went up to Siege and said, I know you did, the karate, the boxing, because back then he had a very formal training. We did a lot of modified Wing Chun, then we did the Kali, the Eskrima, but he said, we know you did a lot of the other stuff, and then we had done to do Muay Thai stuff, he had done to train with all these guys. We said, why don't we do a class where you show us all the stuff we had, don't have any belts, we just spar and we grapple and we do knife fighting, and so he came up with that term like special class. So I started doing that when I was a kid.
How old were you?
I was 12 the first time I did one. So we would do one every time. And those classes were like on Sundays, 2.5 hours, 3-hour classes. And it was basically sparring, grappling, knife fighting, all the weapons. We didn't have any uniforms. We would wear like army shorts, shoes, boots. So I grew up doing that. To me, that was like MMA without calling it MMA because that term wasn't around yet. So when MMA came around, to me, having done all those things, it was natural. We fight a lot, we do this. It was kind of a progression. I always told my instructor, all those classes we did like for 12 years, we can't let that go to waste. Like we need to do a program where there is a crowd now. He was always hesitant because he did all those classes and we're always small groups, late 80s, early 90s. And it's true, like I see as an instructor now today and a business owner, how frustrating it could have been for him where he's pouring out all this knowledge and you have 6 people coming to that class. Or you have 20 people, then you do an hour and a half of full contact sparring and then 3 people show up the next week. This guy quit because he broke his nose, this guy quit. So then I can see where he was coming from saying, well, this kind of training, people don't want that. They're not looking for that. But then in the end, in the last 10 years, I was telling him, well, now there's like amateur fighters, there's all these circuits everywhere. It's becoming something. So I think we can take all those classes, all that curriculum, all that training, and we can actually, there's a crowd now, there's a demand for that type of training.
There's a big market.
Exactly. And then we can do, the people want to do more self-defense and martial arts. we keep that, and then we put it completely separate. And we do all the Sancho, the kickboxing, the fighting, the grappling, and we train the guys who want to fight. We do a fight team, and it took us a while before he warmed up to the idea. And then we started to do like different things, and then, but in the end, I know when you used to talk to like the old school guys, they never say good stuff about you when you're there. But when I just saw your instructor, and he was saying how proud he was of the guys and what you've done and all that. Third party all the time, so I know that in the end he was happy we had done that, but it was a process that came from that kind of stuff.
In Bruce Lee's writing, and I can't quote exactly, but I recall later on in his life he was more or less mixing striking styles,
absolutely,
with grappling styles, and so on. So isn't it fair to say that Bruce Lee was one of the original mixed martial artists? In terms of the fact that he was experimenting. I know even he was doing judo with, correct me if I'm wrong, with Jean
LaBelle, and I think he did some stuff with, I'm not sure if I pronounce his name properly, Howard Nikiosha or something like that. He was a Pan-Am champion. I think he was doing with those guys as well. As well as one of his original students, Jesse Glover, who passed away not too long ago. He was a judo, a black belt and a judo champ in the States. When he started taking class with Bruce Lee, and from what I've known and from what I've heard, he really liked a lot of that stuff right off the beginning.
Bruce Lee
did a lot of those stuff. And I have pictures and old books that Jesse wrote, and they're training judo together. The posters of demos where it's judo and gung fu on the little drawings that they're going to do, like around Seattle and stuff like that, which are handwritten posters that they would pass around. So I think he was involved in judo a long time at the beginning. I do believe Bruce Lee was in the modern era, a forerunner of mixed martial arts. But I do think some styles, like if I'm not mistaken, like the founder of Aikido blended stuff together. The guys who developed judo, they came from jiu-jitsu. I think a lot of cool sambo, they blended a lot of stuff. But who popularized it? I think Bruce Lee's the guy who popularized that idea and the books and how concise he was in his concepts of using no way as way training. He would tell his students, not because you're Filipino you have to do a Filipino martial art. It's not because you're Thai you have to do a Thai. Use anything that works. Always work on running. Got to do punching bag. Got to do pads. Got to do sparring.
Western boxing.
If it doesn't work when you apply it, don't use it. Develop what works for you. If you're big, if you're tall, if you're flexible. I think his concepts were very, very advanced, and I think he would have kept advancing all the time. And I have no doubt that, and a lot of the stuff that he talked about, late 60s, early 70s, people are proving it today. So I think he was way ahead of his time, and he did bring it to the forefront that, guys like Jean LaBelle also did a lot of cross-training, Benedetta Urquidez. I think those guys didn't get a lot of credit, but they were always doing all these martial arts. But I do think Bruce Lee made it very popular, and the way that he formed it, with his books or with his writings and the way he taught, I think he definitely put that movement on the map as far as the development of cross-training, for sure.
Do you think if, say, Bruce Lee was still alive today, do you think he'd be involved in mixed martial arts?
I believe so. I think he would have been involved because he likes that evolution. It was always about everything you read about him, or everything that I learned from my instructor that he had learned from, that base was always to constantly try to get better, not only add stuff, but to get better at what you do, find new ways to do it, advancements in training, all that stuff. I believe he would have been at the forefront of that. He would have been an advocate for it. I'm pretty sure that he would, because if you read all his stuff, it's all about testing yourself, physical conditioning, training. The thing I think he would have liked more is that the philosophical aspects, because Bruce Lee was a lot into that philosophy, which a lot of times in MMA takes a side door a little bit, where just the physical part.
True, but it's interesting now because you're seeing more and more traditional stylists, like say karatekas, I guess judokas and so on now in North America that are crossing over into MMA. On that note, I just want you to tell us a story about how you guys got involved with the Gokor channel, with the curriculum and so on. Tell us about that, because I think that's, in my opinion, probably the best curriculum for grappling in North America. And that's my opinion, because I'm a big fan of his, and obviously his students. But how did that? Because I think you're the only Canadian.
I'm not sure. There's not a lot of Canadians that train with him.
Because I remember when you guys started. I remember online. I googled or YouTube GoCore Canada, and I saw a seminar video at one of your doors.
Yeah, the Castle Dojo.
Yeah, and I was
years
like,
ago.
wow, you guys landed. This guy is great. Because I think, anyways.
That started out again with my father-in-law, Sijo. He had always a lot of these friends, and he would always go. Every time he went somewhere, he was a magnetic personality. Either you didn't like him because he was very straightforward, or people loved him as well because he would stay with you and talk all night, 12-hour discussions. You would have liked to sit down with him because you enjoyed talking, and he just loved all that stuff. He could talk for like 6, 7, 8 hours non-stop, and it was like, whoop, already done, So, and he met Bob Wall about 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
And he knew Jean LaBelle from a long time ago. Like he had done some seminars with Jean LaBelle like in the mid '80s, and he met Bob Wall on a trip, and they ended up spending 2 weeks together. Him and Bob Wall nonstop. They said instead of doing separate trips, let's do the trip together with his wife and Linda Sijo's wife. And then from there, Bob Wall said, when you come to LA, I'll have you meet GoCore and Jean-Jacques Machado and all these guys that Bob Wall's been involved in with for a very long time. And then we went to LA. We went to see the Machados. We went to train with them, and then we went to GoCores. GoCore just clicked with the way that we worked a little bit. It's a lot of no-gi stuff. We liked him as a person as well right away. I think he liked us, like how we were. We were very real, very down to earth. We loved to train. We went right away with all these guys, all his black belts, all his okay, let's go, let's train. I think he liked our enthusiasm. After the first time we went, myself and Martin, we went to train there. 2 hours after, he asked Sijo, I would like you guys to represent my style, where you guys are from after like the first time we met. So I think we just clicked, and he just liked, or I think he liked our enthusiasm, the way we were. And for us, it was his style, like being, I find it like a bit a rough, raw, dynamic style. It blended well with what we had already been doing from like the Junfan Judo, that old school.
It's a perfect marriage of
exactly.
Style.
So it went well. It blended well together. Plus Sijo and Jean LaBelle always got along, and also Sijo and GoCore got along really well. We got along great with them as well. And the other thing we liked about him, it was not about money. He didn't ask us, when you be with me, it's going to be an association, and you're going to pay me so much and so much. It wasn't even about that. He didn't even ask us that, and like it's been like 10 years almost now, and he never asked us nothing. Just we go there, train every year. He comes down, he sleeps at the house. When we go there, we go eat with him. We go with his family. So we built a good friendship very quickly. And obviously, like you said, their blend of like Koshin Judo, Sambo, catch wrestling, I find it very effective, very straightforward.
And this is why I say it's the best style, like a crossover style, because you know, it's obviously he's a judoka, he's a sambo player, he's a freestyle wrestler back in Armenia. But when you have a coach with that sort of range and depth in grappling, like for example, certain styles are predominantly Newaza based.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
We don't talk about the stand-up. We don't talk about the transition and even lower body, leg locks, and so. Whereas his curriculum is like most. Because of that sambo and judo background and catch wrestling, and it's complete. I find grappling wise, it's like the go-to. And it's not uniform. That's it. And I'm not knocking other styles. I have a bias towards that sort of style myself.
For me, it was easy to pick up, and also what I like being like a lifelong martial artist, a bit of a historian. I read all that stuff. I like the fact that Bruce Lee and Jean LaBelle trained together. And Bruce Lee died and couldn't really finish the grappling curriculum in his Junfan martial arts and in his art. And going with GoCore, who was a direct student, with a kind of a circle where you go back to the kind of the roots. So I kind of like that. And when I said that, he was like, "Yeah, that's true." Eh? So we're kind of making it come back together. So it was a good mix. And also, I think it's important when you train with somebody that you don't just train if they're good or what they've done, but how you feel with that person. So with him, we felt an instant connection where we felt at home. And obviously, after 2 hours asking us to represent his system, he obviously saw something in us that he liked. as far as our skill and our attitude. So up to now, it's been going very well. And we've trained with other people as well.
Sure.
And it's, but for me, I do enjoy that style of grappling as well. Informal and straightforward. And he has the same philosophy as us. Just whatever works.
Obviously now you have a fight team, and they're competing at the amateur and pro level. You even have one fighter abroad doing Thai boxing in Thailand. Speak to us about that and how that all came, because it's funny hearing you talk about 15 years ago you used to go to a fight in Laval for an amateur bout or pro at the time. Because back then, amateur pro...
I don't think there was any amateur.
I mean, you might as well call it pro, because that's what it was, right? Give us the kind of comparative look, because now you have students that are fighting, right? And you're running, from what I know, I've seen quite the dominant crew of fighters. And I've seen you guys train here at your dojo, and the vibe is pretty much very serious. Everyone is dedicated and professional. Obviously, they're following a certain rhythm you've created. Speak to us about the evolution of the brand, the Patenaude brand, the Fang Shendo brand, and so on.
So of course, like I said earlier, a lot of the stuff that my Sifu had developed was about combativeness, self-defense, personal development. I still believe that is the base of what we do. You go in the cage, you go in the ring. It is a combat. It is a fight. You just take a few of the moves that you're not allowed to do, and then you adapt to that situation. And all the special classes we did, we used to do all these conditioning drills, like an hour and a half of sparring, grappling, all the neck drills, the chisao. I think a lot of drills from different arts blend in very well to build speed and power. So a lot of what we do is based on all that old stuff we did.
You know what's interesting about, for me, I'm learning a lot to hearing about, this, because the special classes and stuff, because just being honest here, back in the day, I remember hearing that the dojos, your dojos, were very much kind of where the bouncers would train, because it was more like combative street, self-defense, and not the sport combat, the sport aspect.
I would agree to that, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So and it's interesting to hear that you guys back then, you had your special, courses where you were doing MMA, because I think many people
they probably don't know that.
No, they don't know that, and it's interesting, I think, for me and many others to hear that, because people, it's news.
For sure. And to see, again, being an instructor where back then, what was the point of doing that? You wouldn't be, I'll specialize in that if there's 6 people in class and then there's 50 people in the self-defense class. It didn't make any sense back then as well. Business sense. For sure. And time-wise as well. There was no, like you said earlier, where are you going to go with all this, here in Ottawa? You had to going to Thailand was like saying, you're going to go fight in Thailand. What? They were making movies back then about, you go to Thailand, or every cheesy action film was a guy fighting in a cage. Right. Every video game was, oh my God, can you imagine that? Now it's a reality. People are doing that every weekend. So it just evolved. When it started out, when we started doing that, to me, it was like, we're going to go fight like we do against people we don't know. But then I realized after, when it kind of blew up, guys can make a living maybe doing this. We can help a lot of people doing this as well. My instructor was very, he did all these fire walks, arrow breakings, a lot of stuff that was martial art related for confidence and self-development and overcome fear and all that. And in a way, we had a lot of these discussions where we would say, some people are more afraid of going in the ring than jumping out of a plane. And when we went in that direction, where some people, will have some teenagers will come here with zero confidence, but teaching them, you could be an amateur champ, you can learn to defend yourself, you can actually compete. That'll give them that confidence, the same as doing any other type of personal development exercise. So it started doing that as well, and he liked that idea that I had, that I want to help them as well, not just be good fighters, because they're not going to fight forever, right? It's a very short time.
Very true.
But to be good people through that, or be better than you ever thought you could be doing that. So we still do that, but the evolution came like a trial and error as well. The first, bring tape, learn how to wrap up the hands. how does a weigh-in work? Do you have to trash talk all the time? When do we push each other? You know, all these things. Oh, you don't have to do that. Okay, good. All these things came by doing it, and we just learned really quickly, really fast. But the training part to me always stays the same. You know, if you're fast, you're strong, you're aggressive, you're well prepared, you'll be able to handle yourself in any kind of sports arena you go to. So you have that vibe will never change. You know, 200 years ago, you had your fighters that you were prepared, and I think in 200 years you'll still need to be fast and strong and well conditioned, even though the techniques evolve and the fighters evolve, the preparation evolve. We just keep ourselves doing that as well, and training with different people as well. We learn how they prepare their guys, how we prepare our guys, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and I'm always open and always willing to adapt and get better and learn as well. I learn with my students every time.
Speaking of your students, can you give us, can you tell us who your students are and where they fought and just, can you give us a highlight?
Yeah, we've been going to a lot of competitions locally here. We've done a lot of the hybrid amateurs that were around, hybrid pros as well that Yohan Dejna puts on, very good shows. Amateur-wise, we go to the Heroes now here in Ottawa, which are basically now it's almost like a semi-pro, right? Pro-am with the 6-ounce gloves and the knees. So I really like that evolution from the big gloves and the no knees, which I found was a huge jump from amateur to pro, where it was a huge step in equipment and rules and all that. So I like that those new rules and those new gloves. I think it's a smoother transition and it's makes for better fights. We've also fought a couple of spots in Quebec. Dave, one of my students, is in Thailand right now. It's his third stint there. He's doing very well. I have a good fight team, a lot of young guys, 3-4 pros right now, and about 20 amateurs, and half of them, their goal is to eventually go on to pro. Yeah, we have a lot of guys, and we're building some new guys as well. Before I had a lot of guys here in Gatineau. I seem to attract that crowd.
Right.
Now we're spreading out. A couple of the other schools are getting 1 or 2, and we're meeting all the time to train together. And my brother-in-law, Martin, is heavily involved as well with since he's a very young kid, like 2 years old, with his dad. So he's my main training partner, and he's the guy who helps me out a lot as well when the guys come to Castleman and to do the fight teams and all that stuff. So he lends me a hand a lot in that, and he's a very skilled martial artist. So that's I'm able to have some support and people helping me out as well.
So if someone were interested in coming to your dojo or one of the satellite dojos around the area, because you guys are in Quebec and Ontario, where can we find information on
they can reach us like here in Gatineau. They can reach us like they can call us, and people still call. People still use phone. Yeah, all right. So they can call us. Like the phone number here is 819-663-9929 if they want to talk to somebody to come and try a class or find out if we have a program for them. Facebook, we're all over Facebook as well. Our website, www.fangshengdo.com, and then they'll see the list of all the schools and who we are. And like I said, for me, it's always the same. Somebody wants to come in, I always talk to them what their goals are, what their objectives are, if they've done some martial arts before, and then we try to put them in the best class that fits for them as well. The competitive class, the self-defense class, the beginner's class, and it always comes down to people who want to have fun when they do martial arts, and they want to get better and improve themselves. So my main goal is that, to help people get to be better people at the end of the day.
Well, it was very nice speaking with you, and I think people in the Ottawa Valley and Ottawa-Gatineau area are very fortunate to have you guys training and producing, like I said, such high-level competitors. And I hope that we get to see some of these guys in the UFC one day, or fighting abroad in Japan, be it Rise-In or whatever that promotion is called. And keep up the amazing work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that coming from a guy like you who's done martial arts. It's always appreciated. It's nice to hear. Thank you.
You would kick my ass, though. I know that for a fact. Thank you for your time.
You never know, man. You never know.